right, hello, here we go with lesson 5B, using slope and y-intercept to graph. Students will be able to graph linear functions using the slope and y-intercept. Students will be able to explain the steps to graphing linear functions using slope and y-intercept form. And this is important for graphing functions quickly. All right, so a little background knowledge. This is called slope-intercept form. Get this, because we can see the slope and the y-intercept. So slope is right here. Remember, that's m. M represents the slope or the rate. And the y-intercept is the b right there, which is the initial value, or where x equals 0. So it's called slope-intercept form because it shows you the slope and the y-intercept in the form of the equation. So watch how easy this is. You're going to love this lesson. Identify the slope and y-intercept in each equation. Let's zoom in. Woo! Hello. Number 1, there it is. We see y equals 3x plus 5. Now in yours, you need to fill in the y equals 3x plus 5. All right, so watch this. The m, the slope, shows up in front of the x. Look at that. So the slope is 3, and the y-intercept is not connected to the x. That's the extra. That's the initial value. When we had 0, we still ended up with an answer of 5. So we're just going to be writing it like that. But remember, if they were asking for the y-intercept, it could also be written as 0, 5. So I'll be writing it like that for the other equations. That's it. So the slope is in front of the x, and the y-intercept is off to the side. Let's look at number 2. Y equals 4/5 x minus 1 means the slope is 4/5, and the y-intercept is 0, -1. Ta-da! What about this one? Y equals 7. All right, m equals, now do we have an x in here? Is there any x to see what number's in front of it? Well, no. So this slope is going to be 0. And the y-intercept is 0, -7. Ta-da! Let's look at number 4. Number 4 should say y equals -x plus 3. The slope is in front of the x. What number's in front? Oh, that's a -1. The slope is -1. The y-intercept is 0, 3. And that's it. So this slope tells me that this would go down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. This slope tells me it would go up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, because remember, all whole numbers are over 1. This slope tells me it would go up 4 over 5, up 4 over 5, up 4 over 5. This slope tells me, remember, it's that horizontal line straight across through -7. Number 5 should say y equals 4. If y equals 4, that means my slope doesn't exist. It's not on there, so the slope is 0, and the y-intercept is 0, 4. So if there's no x even there, then it would just be 0. How about this one? Y equals 2/5 x minus 1/4. Our slope would be 2/5 because that's the number in front of the x. Don't mind that bell. And the y-intercept would be 0, -1/4. So that one would be a little trickier to graph because -1/4 is kind of hard to find on the grid. But we know from there it would go up 2, right 5, up 2, right 5, up 2, right 5. All right, so let's see if we can do the opposite of that now. Let's look at, given an m and a b, let's see if we can write the equation. So if m is -2 and b is 6, remember our form, y equals mx plus b. And so that means this equation would be y equals -2x plus 6. There's our equation. Just as easy as that. All right, number 2, if m is 3/7 and b is 1, then that means we would have y equals mx plus b. Let's write that down first. Y equals mx plus b. Don't worry, there's a song for you to sing that goes with this one that we'll be singing tomorrow. You're welcome. So in this one, y equals 3/7 x plus 1, which means I'd start at 1 and go up 3, right 7, up 3, right 7, up 3, right 7. All right, how about this one? M is 0, b is -5, y equals mx plus b. So that means y would equal 0 x's plus -5. So that means I could just write this as y equals -5 would be this equation. Okay, notice 0 times anything is 0, so this x would just go away if the slope is 0. All right, so that would be our horizontal line. Number 4, if m is 1/8 and b is 0, then we would have y equals mx plus b. So we'd fill in the m and the b. So we would have y equals 1/8 x plus 0, or in other words, just y equals 1/8 x would be the equation. There it is. Sorry about that. All right, number 5, if m is 1 and b is 6, and we're filling in y equals mx plus b, then that means we would have y equals 1x plus 6. And normally we don't write a 1 in front of the x, so that would be y equals x plus 6, would be the normal form you would see of that equation. All right, number 6, if m is negative 1/2 and b is 10, and we're filling in y equals mx plus b, then we know it would be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 10. Ta-da! We love slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is nice. We always have the slope in front of the x and the y-intercept off by itself. No letter attached to it. No variable to be multiplied by. It's always the constant. All right, so in graphing equations using slope-intercept form, we're going to start at the y-intercept. Remember, that's 0, something. Then we will use the slope to plot 2 more ordered pairs. And then we will draw our line to connect the dots. Remember the slope, so we are going to write a little note down here. Slope is change in y over change in x. That's the slope. And so if y is changing, it goes up if it's positive or down if it's negative. But I want you going to the right all the time, just so you don't get confused with right and left movement. Right would be positive, left would be negative. That's true. But I want you to use this form, please. If it's positive, go up. If it's negative, go down, but then always go to the right. All right, let's go to the back of this so that you can practice graphing from this. You're going to love how easy this is. All right, number 1, y equals 3/5 x minus 2. We're going to graph that super fast. Watch this. Watch this beautiful math. All right, so we would have m would be 3/5 because that's the number in front of x. And the y-intercept would be at 0, negative 2, because that's the constant off by itself, no letter attached to it. So that tells me we're going to start here. So let's write a little note. Start there. So start. That's our starting point. We're going to start on the point that we know. So 0, negative 2 is right here. So we start there, and then the slope tells me how to move from there. Because this is positive, that means, let's fill this in, we're going to go 3 up and 5 right. All right. So 3 up, 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's my next point. Now, I don't have enough space to keep going on this graph. So instead of going up 3, right 5, I could just move the opposite directions. So instead of going up 3, right 5, I could do the opposite and go down 3, left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to get another point there. And then we would use our ruler to connect those points to make sure we have a nice, perfect, straight line. Look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. So we have our y-intercept and we have our slope. Awesome. All right, let's try this one. Number 2, y equals 2x plus 3. So you need to fill in the y and the x to complete that equation. Yours just said 2 plus 3 to start with. So it's y equals 2x plus 3. So we know the slope there is the number in front of the x, so that's a 2. Just remember all whole numbers are over 1, so you can go ahead and write that it's over 1 while we're working on it. And the y-intercept is that constant by itself, so that's going to be 0, positive 3. Remember, we start there. 0, positive 3, 0, positive 1, 2, 3. So there's our starting point. And then we use our slope. Because that's positive, we're going to go 2 up, 1 right. Remember the positive directions. 2 up, 1 right. So that means we go up, 1, 2, right, 1. Up, 1, 2, right, 1. Or we could do the opposite of that, down, 1, 2, left 1, and still get points that are on the same line. And I could just keep going and going and going. All right, so notice from all of these points we could go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And because that's constantly changing at the same amount, it makes this perfect straight line on the graph. There we go. All right, let's try another one. This is fun. Number 3, y equals 5/2 x minus 3. The slope is 5/2, so positive up and right. And the y-intercept is 0, constant is -3. All right, so that means we start at 0, -3. 1, 2, 3. We start there, and then we go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, 1, 2. When we're done with both directions, that's where we plop down the point. Both directions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 1, 2. That's our next point. All right, we got 2 more. Let's connect them. I think on your system, on the computer, you'll only need to graph 2 points for it to draw the line. But on paper, let's go ahead and do 3 just so we can line up our ruler nice. Number 4, ooh, there's a -1. Y equals -4/3 x plus 3. So that means m is going to be -4/3. So that means if it's negative, it's not going up, it's going to go down, 4 down, but then still to the right, because that negative symbol can only apply to one of those numbers. So I'm going to float it up to the top to be -4/3, and then our y-intercept is at 0, 3. All right, so we're going to start at 0, 3, 1, 2, 3, right there. And then the slope of -4/3 means I'm going to go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, right, 1, 2, 3. And remember slope, dude, nice, negative. It should look like it's going down. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1, 2, 3. All right, so now I have 3 good points. I can connect using my ruler. So I'm going to draw that line. And again, keep in mind what slope dude would say. Is he going to say puff, puff, positive to go up the hill? Or is he going to say nice, negative? This one is a nice, negative. So he goes down the hill. All right, on to number 5. Y equals -x plus 4. So what's the slope this time? If we're looking at it, that number in front of the x that we don't see is a -1. Remember, all whole numbers are over 1. And so this would mean down 1, right 1. Down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. Our y-intercept here is going to be 0, and that constant is 4. So that means we start at 0, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then from there, we're going to move down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. However many points you want to put on there, just so that you can line up your ruler nice and straight and hit all of the other points that are going to be working for that equation. Oop, kind of went off the graph there. All right, last one. Ooh, tricky one. Y equals 3. Okay, remember, there's no x on this one, so that tells me the slope is 0, which means we're not going to move from our initial point, really. But our y-intercept here is going to be 0, 3. Now, if we think about this, if we were to put in a table of values for this, so I'm going to draw a little table of values so you can see exactly what happens here. We know it starts at 0, 1, 2, 3. We know it starts there. But how do I fill in where it goes? Well, if the only rule is y equals 3, that tells me y has to be 3, but x can be anything, right? So if y just has to be 3, that's my only rule. That means x could be 0, x could be 1, x could be -5, x could be 10, but I don't think this graph goes up to 10. X could be 2. It doesn't matter what x is if there's no x in here, because it's going to go away anyway. So if the only rule is y equals 3, then we can fill in a little table that way. And so let's go ahead. I have 0, 3 there. 1, 3 would be there. -5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -5, 3 would be there. And 2, 3, 2, 3 would be right there. So you'll notice that if I use those points and connect them, that's how I get that horizontal line. That's how I get that slope dudes, this is 0 fun, going straight across that horizontal line. That's how it happens. So if the equation just says y equals 3, then we know x can be anything. Y just has to equal 3. All right, don't forget your exit ticket. Always come back and ask questions if you have them. This is one of my favorite ones. Hopefully you start to get it, and we will be reviewing tomorrow. Have a good day. Yay, math.